Let's head over for a check on the markets now. Iowa State University ag economist Chad Hart joins me to share his analysis of what's happening in fields around the area and any advice as we head into the latter parts of summer. Chad, always great to see you. First off, let's take a minute to get a closer look at crop conditions. Describe for us how things are looking out there.
Sure. When you look at those, I think we finally, if you will, are starting to see the drought impact showing up in those condition reports. You know, if you look back, the idea is that we've been talking about the drought for a long time, but the crop has been, I would argue, pretty well rated up to this point. We finally started to see that slippage, especially as we're looking at the western side of the Corn Belt. We sort of knew it was coming. It was just a question of when. And now I think the market's trying to wrestle with, okay, this hit us for the most part sort of after pollination. So, you know, it didn't necessarily, I'll put it this way, damage the genetics of the crop, but it definitely is starting to erode that top end as we're looking at it from the national yield perspective. If you think about last year's crop, it wasn't until we got here to August into September that we really saw those crop conditions slide, and we saw that crop shrink up and started, if you will, it gave us the supply side, which allowed prices to rally over the past 12 months. And so I think the trade is sitting there again looking at that going, okay, as we look at the crop right now on the corn side, you've got basically Iowa's sort of the dividing line. You look north and west of us, you know those bushels are getting smaller. We're shrinking that crop up because of the drought conditions out there. On the other side, you look in Illinois to the east of us, the idea is there's been enough rain there to produce a very nice looking crop. So are the bushels that are being lost out west being offset by some additional bushels that are being grown out east or not? I think the trade is factoring in that we'll likely see USDA pull back on this yield over time, but it's going to be a slow process, especially as we look here. USDA won't do that objective yield survey like they've done usually in the past in August. They'll start that in September, and I think that's when we'll start to see more movement when it comes to the yield perspective for corn.
And let me talk to you about soybeans too, because August, always a big time for soybeans, maybe even bigger this year since the development for much of the crop appears to be ahead of schedule. Kind of the same story with soybeans. What are you watching?
Yep, definitely the same story there, but yeah, August weather is even more critical there. When you think about the weather conditions, it's usually July that shapes the corn market, and it's August that shapes the soybean market. So as you mentioned here, the idea is it's the same sort of general pattern that we talked about with corn. The difference here being that, hey, these August rains can be really beneficial to the soybean crop. So even where we've been struggling about out west, if we still get some timely rains in here later on in the year, that can help boost that crop perspective for soybeans.
And you may have touched on it a little bit, but want to dig in a little deeper regarding demand for corn and soybeans, just kind of what we're seeing and how it's contributing to that bigger marketing picture.
Yep. So as we're looking right now, I'd say, the past couple of weeks, the market has been sort of tepid in terms of what they're seeing in terms of demand. But that's usual this time of year. When you get into late July into August, this is when demand slows down a bit, waiting for that new crop to come in. But as we look at USDA's projections for the 2021 crop, they do show basically that demand will remain strong, but we'll likely see additional international competition. So as you're looking at feed demand, they expect that to basically hold steady. We're looking for ethanol demand for corn, grind to create fuel to actually go up as we go into the fall. The weak spot here is exports. Just because when you think about what's been happening worldwide here, there's been strong demand for corn and soybeans, but we're also seeing a lot of other countries planting more corn and soybeans because of the price rise over the past 12 months. And so more competition usually means a little bit of a pullback when we're looking in terms of exports. When you add it all together, though, you're still talking about a very strong demand platform for both crops going into the harvest season.
Can we look into the Chad Hart crystal ball to see maybe what's next on the horizon for exports? Any idea?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing I'm going to watch here will be as we get to September, do we start to see those new crop sales really pick up? When you look at corn, what we had was basically, it was very, I would say slow the first 3 months of here 2021. But as we got into May, we saw a big ramp up in advanced sales that has now tailed off here as we've gotten into July. I'm looking for that to ramp back up again, especially as we look at USDA's targets. While they're saying exports will slow down, they're still talking about 2.5 billion bushels of corn being exported out of the 2021 crop, which would be the second biggest number we've ever had. Same sort of thing as you're looking at the soybean side. They're saying things will pull back, but we're still looking at the second best year we've ever projected for, and that would be well north of 2 billion bushels of soybeans. Again, the advanced sales, they actually started out real strong January, February, have slowed down since then, and the main market we're going to watch there is China. They were incredibly active early in the year, but now we're hitting that period of time where seasonally, this is when China usually starts to jump into the soybean market. We should see that activity, like I say, start up within the next 3-4 weeks.